Down goes Jasmine Crockett. But before you celebrate, realize, in comes the rise of James Talarico. Within 15 minutes of the attacks on Iran, there were people on the streets of New York City, people across America, hoisting signs, once again paid for. Once again, Astroturfed, this time in support of Iran. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page, but you can follow us at Spotify or on Apple. What's up, Willisha? James Talarico is your new Democrat candidate for Senate from Texas. A runoff is still scheduled for a few months from now between incumbent Senator John Cornyn and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton to be the Republican nominee for Senate. And although it'll be fun, and we're going to break it down in just a moment, the end of Jasmine Crockett, I do have to tell you, you better be prepared for the rise of James Talarico. There's a lot of people out there on social media today reposting some of my videos and clips suggesting this is going to be a blowout in Texas. And I'm here to tell you it will not be a blowout. This is a serious race. Do not take lightly James Talarico. Friday night, Saturday morning, moments and minutes before and after the United States began a bombing campaign against Iran, there was an organized protest on the streets of New York City. There were protests across America. And interestingly, these protesters that screamed "Stop the War," who villainized the United States of America, who sympathized with the Ayatollah, carried the same branding and the same paid-for monikers that we've seen in the past. In the past, whether or not that's been protests against ICE in Minnesota, or even Code Pink in Washington, D.C. A few months ago, Asra Nomani, senior editor of investigations at Fox News Digital, held up those signs and showed us who paid. Showed us how those same protesters, not just those same signs, but those same people showed up, regardless of the cause, at any given moment, to support the Astroturfed left. And here they were again, this time for the Ayatollah. Asra Nomani joins us now on Will Cain Country. Good to see you, Asra. I'm glad to have you in this moment because it was shocking, wasn't it? It's shocking for the casual observer in that, let us just start with timing. It was fast, Asra. It might even been before the first bomb dropped. It was fast. They were out there on the streets of New York.
They were there within hours because the strikes happened overnight. But within minutes of President Trump even announcing the strike, they had put their notice out, their call to action that this network of organizations was going to be on the streets. And they have been teeing it up for days, Will. They have said in posts, hey, if the strikes happen before 1 p.m., get out there at 5 p.m. If they happen after 1 p.m., then go out there the next day. So it's been this synchronized effort, and I'm so excited to walk you through it. Wore my Nancy Drew jacket just for you and your listeners and watchers, and really happy to unpack it all.
I'm liking your newspaper jacket, your Nancy Drew jacket. You have the ability. You have collected some signs. You can really walk us through. And why don't you do so? Show us what they were saying, but more importantly, show us who was paying for the message.
Yeah, and one thing I want to do is frame this in the global context, because here we are in the United States of America, and what I'm going to show you is witness to what is happening on our streets. But the big picture is that for for 5 decades, for 47 years since the Iranian Revolution in 1979, there has been the creation of this so-called axis of evil between Iran, China, and Russia. And so I just want people to keep that in mind as we walk through this network in the United States, because critics would argue that this network acts as a front organization and effort to uh, create this thing called malign foreign influence for this axis of evil. So let's walk through it. And another term that I'd love to introduce people to is the idea of predictive analysis, because this is the sign for the Stop the War rally that they are going to have across the country this Saturday. So I want everybody to know that you know ahead of time who the players are going to be. So that's huge, right? They got the yellow, light yellow here. They've got the bright colors, and then in small print is the list of the sponsors, and that's what I'm going to walk you through. But the message is not just stop the war. That's really important too. The message is pro-regime, because I want to anchor this conversation in one of the most shocking allies in this coalition, and that is this organization called the Manassas Mosque in Northern Virginia. And they posted this Instagram social media image this weekend. And it's an image of the Ayatollah Khamenei, and it is saying, honoring our leader, Shaheed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So Shaheed means martyr in Arabic. And this is an effort to honor his death. And also, just to give context to folks, I went to a Friday service of this mosque recently, and I wrote an article about how the imam at the mosque prayed for victory over the non-believers, the mushrikun, which is the non-believers, and the kafirun, and they wanted victory of the Iranian regime over the United States. So this is really important in this context of all of this. I haven't even unpacked yet, but Will, what do you think about what I've already shared?
I want to focus in on that Virginia mosque for just one moment, because it caught my
Okay,
attention,
all right.
Asra. I saw that
Okay.
Instagram post. Instagram post, which was deleted. But the first thing about that mosque and their celebration of the life of the Ayatollah Khamenei is just the shocking nature, the eye-opening nature that this exists within the United States of America. This isn't so much about religious freedom. It's not so much about political disagreement, but that we have in our country a population of people who celebrate the enemies of America. I think we need to have that conversation totally separate from anyone's political disagreement, potential political disagreement with this particular war or any war. There is no debating the Ayatollah's position on the United States of America. He has preached and practiced death to America. And it really, really is eye-opening, Asra, if it can be, if we can still be shocked, that there are people that live in our country, most likely with legal status, perhaps even with citizenship, who celebrate the enemies of America.
Yeah, and well, I can tell you, I came as an immigrant to the United States. I come from a Muslim family. We practice Sunni Islam. I'm a Muslim feminist, if people can believe that. I know that's a whole program about what that means. But I sit before you as somebody who has been raised in an interpretation of Islam that rejects that theocracy of the Ayatollah Khamenei. But just like you said, there is an entire network of organizations, mosques, and various groups that support the Islamic Republic of Iran. I went to that Manassas Mosque, and you will not even believe this also. I was stunned to see it myself. But in the prayer hall, they not only had a photo of Ayatollah Khamenei, but they had a photo of him with Sinwar, the leader of the Hamas terrorist group, and Nasrallah, the leader of the Hezbollah terrorist group. All three have now been killed by Israeli strikes and actions, but they celebrated them. And as a journalist, I asked the leaders, why do you have their images? And they said, because these individuals represent our fight against injustice. So that's how they frame it, Will.
Incredible. Okay, let's return to the sign, Stop the War with Iran.
All right.
Let's go to the bottom of the flyer. and you pointed out at the bottom of the flyer, there are a whole host of sponsors of the March 7th Stop the War rally. Tell us about those sponsors.
Okay. And what I'm going to show is how these sponsors recycle messages, because I have collected their signs over a couple years now. I can have literally a museum exhibition on their signs. This is the first one, American Muslims for Palestine. This is their Chicago chapter. This was from a protest in which they were demonstrating against the Biden administration's support of Israel during the war after the October 7th tragedy. But you see, American Muslims for Palestine, they were there at a protest that I attended Monday night in front of the White House, spewing their hatred against the U.S. The Answer Coalition. This one was a sign from their support of Mahmoud Khalil. And this organization is really important because they are the hub organization that is supported by multi-million-dollar donations from this tech tycoon named Neville Roy Singham, living in Shanghai, although he is American born. So just to lay that out a little bit again, is a tech tycoon born in America, is now living in Shanghai. He's a self-declared Marxist, and if you can believe you're hearing this word, Will, a Maoist, because he supports the teachings of Chairman Mao of the Chinese Communist Party, who led the Cultural Revolution. And the Answer Coalition is one of its key organizations in the United States. And then...
Neville Roy Singham. I want to dig into him for just one moment. We've talked about him in the past. A Maoist, a Marxist, an American citizen living in China. He is the main funder behind the Answer Coalition. How many of these signs from your museum are sponsored? How many of these protests are supported by the Answer Coalition?
I have now documented in a database that over the last 3 years, they have supported at least 300 national protest efforts. And that is every protest that we have seen against Israel, against ICE, against the Trump administration, and now against the U.S. strikes on Iran, and throw in there also the U.S. action on Venezuela. And what's really important...
They have protested. The Answer Coalition has supported protests in support of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, in support of the Ayatollah and the regime in Iran, anti-Trump, anti-ICE, anti-Israel. Those various causes have all been supported by the Answer Coalition and Neville Roy Singham.
And what's really important is in support of the Chinese Communist Party. They are explicitly in support of the People's Republic of China and Xi, the president of China. They have been running hundreds of events along with these protests that promote and parrot the propaganda of the Chinese government. And so if everybody remembers again the axis of evil that we talked about, China has a direct interest in ending any strikes on Iran and keeping the regime in power, because for many years now they have used Iran to supply oil to their nation.
You pointed out, Asra, that one of those signs that was supported by American Muslims for Palestine, not necessarily in that particular sign, the Answer Coalition, was used as a protest during the Biden administration. I'm curious, as you rattle off these various causes that have been supported by the Answer Coalition, what is the tie that binds? Is the tie that binds leftist ideology, or is the tie that binds the CCP?
Well, we're very polite when we say leftist ideology, really, because it's taken me, hundreds of hours of binge watching their own propaganda to understand clearly that they are supporting the Marxist-Leninist teachings that many people would also describe as communism. They have called themselves socialists in many fronts, but oftentimes they will also say, I am a proud communist. And that is one connective tissue. when I was at a protest in front of the White House, well, they were protesting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because ultimately they wanted to fracture the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. So they started chanting. They are the ones who invented Genocide Joe as a way to taunt Joe Biden. And I was listening and I watched somebody go, "Are you guys MAGA?" And they were like, "What? No, we're not MAGA," because they were so anti-Biden in their framing of their messages. But what's the connective tissue? They are anti-America and pro-China. That is a clear connective tissue. And what do they want? They want to sow chaos, as the House Ways and Means Committee Chair Jason Smith has said. And they also want to make China more competitive on the global stage than the U.S.
All right, let's go back to the Stop the War flyer once again for the March 7th rally. You were walking through some of the sponsors. You told us about AMP and the Answer Coalition.
And then the Answer Coalition is a part of this organization that's in a little black bubble here. And you can hardly even read the print, but it says the People's Forum. Sounds amazing, right? Sounds like something you'd want to get an annual membership to. But that is the hub where the Answer Coalition and this organization, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, literally print their signs. And you can see in this one, this is a sign about resistance against occupation is a human right. So this was a part of their anti-Israel protest. But these guys were out on the streets all this past week. They are the foot soldiers in this effort. They don't even have their logo on the sheet because they almost don't need to have it. But they have dozens of chapters, including in Texas, all across Texas. They have a hub in Houston, and they are part of the machine that coordinates the messaging so that it gets literally these picket signs get into the hands of even well-intentioned people who are just thinking that they are, exercising their free speech rights. Well-intentioned people, unfortunately, are foils in part for and sort of puppets for this network. One other group that is included in here. Yep. I could go on. So please tell me.
One other group that's included?
Yes. Is really important. And that is the Palestinian Youth Movement. I don't have one of their signs, but I do have one of their partners, which is the U.S. Palestinian Community Network. And I brought this sign specifically because these folks are the ones in Chicago that take on ICE officers as they are doing their work. It's a recycled headline of the day that they come out on the streets for. And then finally, one of the most important little images to understand, they don't even put their name on this. That is how well they kind of hide the optics of they hide the actual language of their organization. It's two hands embracing over a rose, and that is none other than the logo for the Democratic Socialists of America. And what does this sign say? It says socialism beats fascism. Because what has happened now, Will, in this connective tissue, is that the Chinese Communist Party has messaged that socialism is in a war with fascism. It's so ironic, an argument, since socialism is a fascist, expression of governance over people in the way that Russia, China, Venezuela, Cuba exercise their governance. But that is how they have framed it. And that is, Will, how it is that now the Trump administration is being associated with this term of fascist. This is the grand propaganda messaging strategy that they've got.
Okay. Let's take a break for 1 second, Asra. I want to play for you a clip. This is by a guy named Nate Friedman. And he's done a little bit of what you have done is he goes to the streets and he interacts with these protesters. And he interacts with them as they're beginning to set up. So let's take a look at him as he sort of catches it at its visually most organized moment at the street level. The signs are being delivered to the street, and they're beginning to be handed out. Watch this clip of Nate Friedman.
All right, so you can see that none of this is grassroots. This is all paid for. Hey, how you doing, guys? Where are we headed with these signs?
We're good, William.
Okay, so this guy's gonna drive up, and they're gonna load all the signs into this car right here. Here we go. Let's load them all into this van. See for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Witness this.
What is wrong?
What is wrong with us?
You are such a cowardly piece of shit.
Why?
You are.
Who pays me? YouTube pays me. My viewers pay me.
How much
by
money
watching?
do you get? This is not real journalism. You're a fake. You're complete fake journalist.
Okay. Did you or did you not get $20 million from Roy Neville Singham to protest? Did you or did you not?
How much money do you get for your right-wing bull? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so you can look on YouTube on Social Blade. You can see exactly how much I earn. Yeah, take a photo of me as if there isn't already a photo.
All right, so Asra, you can see there, he's on the streets of New
Yeah.
York City. He's seeing these people carry these signs out in bulk of what looks like a bookstore. And he accuses her and whatever organization that she is associated with. And their signs are yellow and they have black writing on them. I didn't get to look at what the signs say. He accuses them of getting $20 million from Neville Roy Singham.
Yeah. So it wasn't just a bookstore, Will. That's what's so awesome. And thank you so much for playing that clip. That is the People's Forum. Right here, right smack in the middle of this poster. That's the People's Forum where Neville Roy Singham has planted so much money to support this network. And that woman that he was speaking to is Leila, who is one of the key organizers of the anti-Israel protests. She's Palestinian American, and she is rabid anti-Israel ideologue. And also, this is what's so important, a self-declared socialist, Marxist. And so that's how this alliance fits together and then goes out into our streets.
And over and over and over, Asra, right? Like the same people with, if not the same signs, the same sponsors of the signs, regardless. We've become accustomed to this, meaning ICE. Okay, we see them on the streets of Minneapolis. Whatever the issue is, they're out there quickly. And you and I have spoken in the past about the prospect of well-meaning people who may agree kind of folding into their ranks. But it always starts, this spark, with this very highly paid and organized fashion.
Yeah, and it's strategic. That's what's so important for everyone to understand. It is well-funded, well-coordinated, and well-orchestrated campaign by people aligned with malign foreign interests designed to undermine the United States of America. And
you know what's interesting about that to me is even if there's well-meaning people that end up in the crowd, right?
Yeah.
They should know who they're associated with. They should know who's paying for the thing that they're joining.
Right. Yeah, because, I worked at the Wall Street Journal for 15 years. I covered the airline industry, covered the travel industry, covered, jetted off to airplane crashes. And there's one thing that we always did, and that was follow the money on everything. And what we have to understand and how I try to approach my reporting on this industry is that it is a business. Those signs have to be printed on paper that somebody buys. All those individuals working at the People's Forum, like the one that we saw in the video, they are salaried employees, and they are doing this with a very clear agenda. But what's really important in the United States of America is that we do have laws about how these organizations function, and those are nonprofit laws. Al Capone was a criminal syndicate that was ultimately dismantled using IRS laws. And so what committees that people hardly pay attention to, like House Ways and Means and the Treasury Department and others are doing, is investigating these organizations for whether or not they're violating their nonprofit laws and their statutes, because they have these lofty missions about education and this and that. They don't include it in their agitation, which is exactly what this industry is about.
All right. Here's another clip from Nate Friedman where he addresses them to your point, Asra, on being paid protesters. Watch.
Get a real job, be a real journalist, and do something for something in your life.
How can you say with a straight face for me to get a real job? How can you keep a straight face and say that? Did you or did you not get $20 million from Roy Neville Singham? You can't deny it. Meet Layan Fulihan. She's a paid protester. Her base salary is $70,000 with an additional compensation of $8,649. So who is this woman getting paid $80K a year to protest? Layan is a Columbia alum with a Palestinian background. She holds a full-time staff position as an educator at the People's Forum as she protests all around New York City. Here she is alongside Taher, another paid protesting leader that we've exposed. Roy Neville Singham pays Layan to travel. That's why you see her speaking in Washington, D.C. at another protest. None of this is grassroots. Know that.
Yeah, that's to your point, Asra. And he's done this with a lot of these protesters. Simply video them, get their faces, and then look into who they are because they show up at every protest. They are professionals.
They are professional, paid protest organizers. And the reason why we also know this is because they have to get permits. And so when they get their permits, they put an entire run of show like you would organize a wedding. And it's people like Layan who are the point folks for the Park Police or the New York Police Department. I went to one protest right after the killing, the first killing in Minneapolis. And that was another one where they just were on the streets like that. And it was one of the people, David, from the People's Forum, that Nate also documents in that little documentary video that he's created. And David was literally directing the protesters as they walked through the streets, coordinating with the New York Police Department, and running the protest from beginning to end. They bring out the megaphones. I love in the video that you've shown, I don't know if folks could see it, but there's a wagon, and they always have these wagons, and they're like their go-to organizing tool. And in the wagons, they pile these signs, and they pile their megaphones and their speakers. And why do we know this? Because what I do is just what Nate did. He arrived early. So you arrive an hour or so early. They always show up. This is so funny, Will. They're such late arrivals. They show up 5-10 minutes sometimes before the protest time is beginning with all their props, and then you can watch them unpack. And so I invite people to go to some of these protests, but go early, and you'll see exactly how it's run. You'll see it for yourself.
Asra, I have up on my screen here in my studio Code Pink, Peace with Iran, Stop the Bombing. We haven't talked about Code Pink. We've gotten familiar with Code Pink. They're always around. They're always showing up. What's their deal?
Yeah. Thank you so much for highlighting them. Here they are. They're right there next to the People's Forum. That's also telling. So the People's Forum, as we now have been introduced, has been funded by this tech tycoon, Neville Roy Singham. And Code Pink was co-founded by his lovely wife, Jody Evans. They were married. Yeah, all runs in the family. 2017, they were married. And that's when People's Forum was created. Code Pink got an infusion of cash also from the Singham Network. I brought one of their signs, another one of their signs, because they love their hot pink. I loved my fuchsia before Code Pink became my obsession. But this was, again, an Israel. And there they are. Yesterday, they were present at another congressional hearing with Secretary Noam. And they are the ones who will oftentimes be the foot soldiers, just like the Party for Socialism and Liberation, bringing out elderly folks who have been relics of the actual Cold War. And they are continuing now this new Cold War, promoting China, literally promoting China in initiatives to rebrand China. If anyone wants to go on a spring break trip to China, they're organizing one. they have organized trips to the People's Republic of Iran, to Gaza, to Venezuela, to Cuba. I hope folks can sort of see that the business also includes this adventure tourism to these, very, very far left socialist communist countries that are, most importantly, adversaries of the United States. And Code Pink is out there, like with this sign that you showed. Peace with Iran, stop the bombing. What they don't say is support the Islamic Republic of Iran, support their theocratic government, support their tyranny against the people. And that is the sort of information warfare is one term that people use about this. This is their psychological operations on the United States, capturing people's imagination with words that you normally appreciate, like peace, but actually they're using as Trojan horses for much more nefarious purposes.
All right, the flyer that you're showing, this is my last question for you, Asra. The flyer that you're showing on in our New York studios, I have here digitally in Dallas. It's Stop the War with Iran, Saturday, March 7th, and it has the various groups that you've highlighted for us at the bottom of the flyer. AMP, which you talked about, the Answer Coalition, which seems to be the major sponsor because they're at the bottom. NIAC, the People's Forum, Code Pink, the Black Alliance, a couple of others I have trouble reading. Here's my question for you. Do these groups support politicians as well? Do they?
Oh, yeah.
Do they just do this? Do they donate to politicians?
That's why it was so important to highlight one of those groups that doesn't even have a name, the Democratic Socialists of America, because that's the organization that has built a 501c4 political nonprofit again, and they have also donated. And as everybody knows, they have been the ones that put Zohran Mamdani into the mayor's seat in New York City. Yeah. And so they very much have political aspirations. I'm going to be connecting the dots on Talarico now, that we know that he's a player, to see what influence they have had on him and his campaign and his messaging. But you can absolutely be certain that any candidate or politician who has had the endorsement of the Democratic Socialists of America is parroting this language. And that's why we see AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar.
Well, that's what I'm curious about. These politicians
Sanders.
say the same things that we're hearing on these signs, but I'm curious if they're also paid, these politicians.
Well, they're paid through political contributions. That's exactly what it is. They this network, as individuals, even as you know, can give political contributions, and so individuals from the network give contributions, and then when they do set up the political action committees or 501c4 nonprofits, they are working for the political campaigns and aspirations of these candidates. That's so critical. I'm so glad you connected the dots on that.
Yeah. It's also fascinating, and it's all so much more than organic and spontaneous, and I think it's important that people understand all this. It's always great having you on, Asra. Thanks for laying this out again. We'll be watching this as we approach this weekend, because it's this weekend, this entire deal.
And we've got a lot more reporting coming up. I've got a lot more reporting coming out, so I'll come back to you with Nancy Drew.
Okay, good. Thank you, Asra.
All right, thank you.
We want to have you. We'd love to have you. All right. That's Asra Nomani here, Fox News, digital investigations at foxnews.com. Really, really, really fascinating stuff about the connective tissue, the ideology, the money, the paid protesters, the paid politicians in what amounts to anti-American, pro-CCP, Marxist messaging here at home on the streets of America. Let's take a quick break and talk about Jasmine Crockett. It's over, but not for James Talarico, the rising star in Texas, when we come back on Will Cain Country.
You never know who might be taking the quiz.
Hi, everyone. It's Candace Cameron Bure.
Hey, everyone. It's Phil Sims.
It's Dolores Catania.
Hey, everyone. I'm Kix Brooks.
It's Candace Bushnell.
I'm Rob Paulson.
I'm Ryan Serhant.
Hey, everyone. I'm
I'm Nicole Palizzi.
Everybody's Kevin Nealon.
What's up, guys? It's Nia Sue, and it's time to take the quiz.
5 questions in less than 5 minutes every day. Listen and follow at thequiz.fox.
Hello, everyone. This is Ainsley Earhart. Thank you for joining me for the 52-episode podcast series, The Life of Jesus.
Neil McDonough portrays Jesus. Stacey Keach, Sean Astin, Michael York, and Kristen Bell provide the voices for some of Jesus' notable followers. A listening experience that will provide hope, comfort, and understanding of the greatest story ever told, The Life of Jesus.
Make sure to spread the word.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'm Dana Perino. This week on Perino on Politics, I'm joined by Managing Director at Beacon Global Strategies and host of the NatSec Matters podcast, Michael Allen. Available now on foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
I'm Chanley Painter. This week on the Fox True Crime Podcast, we uncover the truth behind the notorious Atlanta Gold Club.
Listen and follow now at foxtruecrime.com
or wherever you get your favorite podcast.
It is Will Cain Country at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page, on Spotify and on Apple. 2 Days Dan, Tinfoil Pat. First of all, can we just say, I find that so fascinating. Crazy. Last time Asra was on with us, you know, I think, and Patrick is familiar with this term, we've talked about it, steelman. Steelmanning is...
opposite of straw man, right?
I think
yes.
Yeah, a very, very, very useful tool. Not a popular one. Straw manning is much more popular. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you want to gain an audience,
tell the audience,
and you want to get people to high five you, huh?
I wasn't really sure what it meant.
What?
I wasn't really sure what it meant.
Well,
steelmanning.
Look, in the age of social media, and short attention spans and this kind of thing, and sort of like the way that everything is getting, I don't know, so tribal. The path to the quickest rise to popularity is to provide the weakest form of argument of your opponent and then slay it, right? That's straw manning. Steel manning is giving the best benefit of the doubt and strongest argument of your opponent and then taking it down. And there are people, I think a lot of rational people, that find that ultimately more compelling, right? But it isn't done in 30-second clips. It just isn't. So, last time we were with Asra, I asked her, in an attempt to sort of steelman the issue here, so when we laid this out, as we just did, it's incredibly damning for anyone that I think not only joins these protests, but parrots this type of language. You are signing up for something that is overtly, at least quasi-overtly. I mean, it's not on its surface, but it's not hidden either. You just have to dig a couple of layers. Anti-American. Anti-American, funded by at least sympathizers to the CCP who believe in a version of Marxism. But let's steelman that for just a moment. If you were on the left and you're listening to everything that was just laid out by Asra, what is the most dismissive or strongest argument against it? And I think that it would go something like this. Well, you're just calling something that you disagree with anti-American, right? So in other words, I have a different vision of America than you do.
That's a good point.
My vision of America, this is my steelman attempt at what they're saying. My vision of America includes, universal health care, whatever. Elements of what we would call socialism, right? But I do think we have to be, I think it's not strawman to say that has obviously morphed into other things too, like it became inherently anti-free speech. It just did from the years 20, it was openly inherently free speech, from COVID to, what was described as domestic terrorist talk, and that encompassed everything from vaccination talk to school board meetings, where parents who showed up at school board meetings worried about what their children were being taught were labeled as domestic terrorists. So the elements of socialism and their different vision of America wasn't just benign universal health care, right? It wasn't Democrats of the 1990s. So like your friends, Dan, if they heard that, I think that their response would be, cool deep dive. Ultimately, these people just want a different vision of America that they would not describe as anti-American, right? And then the real philosophical debate begins when your different vision of America, by its definition, is different than the definition of America, which has an objective founding and we would hope continuation. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we know the spirit and the values with which America was born. And if your vision of America is antagonistic to those, does it not ultimately become something that is anti-American?
Yeah.
And Marxist. Marxism is anti-American. How about that?
Absolutely.
Can we agree?
Absolutely.
Is Marxism anti-American? Just start there.
Yes.
Yes, right?
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, as someone who's kind of moderate left, absolutely. There's no way it wasn't founded that way. It will never be that way, and it shouldn't be that way.
And they can't coexist.
Uh-oh, Patrick.
They can't coexist.
I think personally that we've kind of been battling this since our founding. Like, if you think about the Pilgrims, a lot of the things that they did, while they weren't technically Marxist because Marx wasn't alive yet, they did have like communes and they did share things and
government-run agencies.
Similar,
like everything.
I don't think that's the same thing.
Private.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
That is living communally locally is not living Marxist nationally. That's not the same thing. Like the concept of community, the concept of community is not by its very nature Marxist. It is not. The founders of America would have supported the idea of community, living together in harmony, helping each other out. But Marxism is the forced nature of that from a top-down design, not the organic development of that within a neighborhood.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that there have been elements of that within of that frame of thinking throughout our history. Whereas like it's kind of been this battle between mavericks and cowboys and freedom and those who don't really want that.
It's essentially anti-capitalism.
Okay,
what
but I think
people
you're simplifying that. Look, who are the most charitable people in America? The right. That's objective. Like, we know the numbers on this. The right is way more charitable than the left, giving money away to charity. That doesn't mean the right is Marxist. Giving away charity to help other people is not Marxist. So these are people living together in harmony, helping each other out voluntarily is not a characteristic of Marxism. And I think you're going a little far on that. It is the forced nature of an elite class of people who decide what is best for the community and force everyone else to participate. That is Marxism.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and come up with better arguments. But I don't know why you couldn't have just patronized me.
Damn it. I guess, Dan, I'm just trying to steel man anybody on the left that would see that and be like, so what?
I mean,
like
the lefty,
never always sing him like that right there.
Yeah.
We should all want to know who he is and what his end goal is. He's funding so much.
I think that people like the guys I know that are lefties look at that, look at these protesters and think it's a little bit of a clown show, right? They do kind of agree with what they're saying, but the fact that they're being, funded by these, quiet investors and all these things is kind of like, okay, well, that's happening, whatever, who cares? But, still F the right kind of thing.
Right. Hey, by the way, don't you think it's interesting that charity thing I just said? Like, the left, despite all of its Marxist rhetoric, is not charitable.
It's because the right's richer.
Like, that's kind of... Oh, is that what it is?
Yep.
I don't think that's what it is.
I think it is.
I don't think that's what it is.
I would say more billionaires are more conservative.
I'm not sure that's true.
There's just more money.
Billionaires are the only ones that give to charity? You think billionaires are the only one that give to charity?
No, well, the richer you are, the more likely you are to give a lot to charity. So I think the richer you become, the more conservative you become, which you said wasn't true, but I don't know that that's true.
In some ways, though, it's kind of loaded, though, because like they give to charities and like with Singham, you're seeing his charities are
tax
playing
write-offs.
Their tax write-offs, and they're also supporting his views and pushing his views into society. Certain other people do that as well through their foundations.
I mean, look at the brothers, what they did.
Sit in a pew on Sunday, and you're going to see the difference. You think it's billionaires? I offer sit in a pew on Sunday. All right. It's sad. I think it's somewhat
Very sad.
Sad day for Jasmine Crockett. I'm telling you something. There's a lot of people celebrating this. Like, I see some posts out there. Well, it's a good thing, It's a good thing that we're finally done with Jasmine Crockett. Be careful. See, here's the thing. Jasmine Crockett lost yesterday to James Talarico in the Democrat Senate primary for Texas. It wasn't even particularly close, I think, in the end. 8 points, maybe, something like that. And Jasmine did suggest that the election was stolen, that Republicans rigged it in Talarico's favor, I guess. It's time we have an honest heart-to-heart, Jasmine. Jasmine, Republicans wanted you to win. No one rigged it for James. We wanted you to win because, and I know this is going to be hard to stomach, because you're a joke. We knew it would be a slaughter in the general election. You're right. It was rigged. But it was rigged by your own party. The media establishment and the Democrats in office in America got behind the white guy. They decided he was their guy, and you weren't, Jazzy. All the way to The Late Show, where they perpetrated a hoax on the American people that Donald Trump's FCC censored an interview between Stephen Colbert and James Talarico, which did not happen. And that was his big breakthrough moment from name recognition on the national stage. You got the Bernie Sanders treatment. You got the Democratic Party picking its heir apparents, and it wasn't you, Jasmine. We wish it would have been you. We wish it would have been Jasmine Crockett. But it's not. And I feel confident that there will be some place that you'll land solidly on your feet, perhaps The View. But it won't be as a senator from Texas. Now, will James Talarico? Here's what everyone's going to be tempted to do today. There are clips, and I posted a lot on my X feed, of James Talarico. Let's get a taste of the kind of things that James Talarico has said. Dan, you've collected a couple of them. Let's start with the idea that Jesus' birth is a morality play about abortion.
Before we go further, I want to acknowledge that our trans community needs abortion care too.
No.
Defending trans Texans is something we have to do every day at the state capitol. And you better believe I'll be giving sermons on that too. So when I use the word woman, it should not be understood as an exhaustive term, but rather as a lens through which to understand.
Played the wrong one, didn't I?
Yeah, it's the one about the enunciation.
There's so many videos that I didn't cut.
Your fault. You got them all. Well, let's just stick with that one. It's a good place to start. Transgenders need abortion care too. And then he is very careful to say, I want you to know I'm not using the word woman. What did he say? As an exhaustive term, meaning it has no real limitations or boundaries. It's not boxed in. What is a woman? You would think that this would be enough. You really would. That clip, and maybe it will be. Maybe that one clip is enough. Go ahead, Tinfoil.
I can't say what I was going to say. You said it's not boxed in, but technically.
Okay.
Never mind.
You would think
you're in timeout.
That this is like the Kamala Harris they them pronouns ad. You would think this right here cut into an ad would be enough to do it. But I'm here to tell you, this is my warning. This mealy-mouthed, every sentence has both a radical left thing paired with something that sounds common sense is going to work on a lot of people. I'm warning you. This is going to work on a lot of people. Let's try it again, Dan. Watch the way he explains that the Jesus story is a story of abortion with Joe Rogan.
But I say all this in terms of, in context of abortion, because before God comes over Mary and we have the incarnation, God asks for Mary's consent, which is remarkable. I mean, go back and read this in Luke. I mean, the angel comes down and asks Mary if this is something she wants to do. And she says, if it is God's will, let it be done. Let it be. Let it happen. So to me, that is an affirmation in one of our most central stories that creation has to be done with consent.
Okay, so he uses that. By the way, that's going to work on some people. It's the tone, it's the style, it's the I'm kind of confused.
I was
at the
almost
end.
like,
I don't really know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, except, okay, you want to get down to the brass tacks?
Sure.
By the very story, Mary is asked before conception.
Yeah, that's
so
consent.
That's a lesson against rape. That's not about abortion. Was the deal that was struck there that Mary could get 4 months into it and decide, I'm out? You know, like, is that what that he is communicating there? Mary consented, therefore she can have an abortion? But that's going to work, man, on a lot of people. That's going to work on a lot of people. Here he is on, you know, he's a Presbyterian seminarian.
Real
Seminarian
quick,
means you studied it, right?
I have a question for you. Do you know what that event was called, Will?
The Annunciation.
Wow, you did it. Incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
With all your disabilities.
Don't patronize me. Yeah, that's right.
I'm just proud.
Really trying to bring my disabilities out.
Yeah, you're a protected class.
Here he is, the Presbyterian seminarian on Buddhism and Hinduism.
I believe Jesus Christ reveals that reality to us. But I also think that other traditions reveal that reality in their own ways with their own symbol structures. And I've learned more about my tradition by learning more about Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam and Judaism. And so I see these beautiful faith traditions as circling the same truth about the universe, about the cosmos. And that truth is inherently a mystery.
You know, this is antagonistic to Christianity, to the concept of Christianity, where Jesus says, I am the way. He didn't say, I am the way, but hey, Buddhism's cool too, if that helps you get there. And he uses the word tradition, my tradition. So this is just my tradition in finding my way to the truth. You have another tradition in finding your way to the truth. This one, I think, actually can hurt him. Like, I don't know.
But he's religious enough.
I'm telling you.
Like,
what do you mean?
For the left, he's just religious enough. You know what I mean? Like, he says these progressive.
It's not the left that
religious
matters.
That's true.
The left is not a part of the equation.
Right. You're right.
The equation.
The fringe right.
The equation is
the middle.
The equation is the middle. The middle. And the middle, I'm telling you that the Jasmine Crockett had no ability to appeal to the middle. None. Zero. Right? Zero. I mean that literally. Zero. She might have gotten zero independents.
Okay.
She might have gotten zero moderates.
Absolutely.
This will work. This will
religious enough
work
for the middle. Yeah.
on some of them. Well, some of them. And perhaps some enough to swing an election. Let's play one more. This is on the southern border.
Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front.
He does say, see, I'm not going to do the same thing that Talarico does. I'm not going to stoop to his level. He does say that next with a lock on the front door. So, but I don't care. I don't think our southern border is our front porch. I don't think it should have a welcome mat on the front of it. I don't think the southern border is the path to legal migration. I think there are other paths. There are legitimate paths. So he is playing, this is where he's playing the say something radical and add a common sense thing to it in one sentence when he says, and a lock on the front door.
It's smart.
this is the border issue, again, like that one about trans people getting pregnant. I feel like that should be enough. Like, you cut those ads right there, and it should be enough. But he does enough stylistically that I don't know how much you should celebrate the fall today of Jasmine Crockett. Ken Paxton and John Cornyn are going to fight it out in a runoff to see who goes up against James Talarico. A lot of money's going to be spent in the meantime. But even if Talarico, here's the real thing, and this is just politics. Even if Talarico loses and the Republicans have to spend a lot of money in the state of Texas, that's money that's not going to go to North Carolina or somewhere else. And you're going to have problems in the midterms because of that. But we are sad. We are sad. Jasmine's such a great content factory. I don't know how we're going to do without her. You know, not in Congress, not in the Senate. We're truly going to miss you, Jasmine. We didn't rig it. We didn't rig it against you. We're going to miss you, Jasmine. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on Will Cain Country. We'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Hope you'll follow us on Spotify or Apple. We'll see you again next time.